Today's podcast is brought to you by Funny Bone Broth, now available at Italy and McEwen's in the TD Center. Or you can visit them at funnybonebroth.com.
In a world where it seems totally normal to listen to a podcast about the Toronto Argonauts, it's the X's and Argos podcast.
Welcome to the X's and Argos podcast. Ben Grant along with JB. We've got a great show for you today, an interview with Toronto Argonauts wide receiver and All Ball podcast host, Natey Adjei. That's coming up later. And we're going to start off by talking a little bit about how the hub city is going to work for individual teams. Like how, for instance, the Argos are going to go through that process, what living in this bubble might be like for them as an individual team, etc. And I want to talk about the Edmonton football franchise deciding that they are absolutely not going to change their name. It's been brought up many times before. I'm sure it will be brought up again. But JB, you wrote an article on this very topic. And so I want to get into that a little bit with you as we make our way through today's episode. So let's get into talking about this hub city thing. News broke last week. Rod Peterson had a credible source that let him know that Winnipeg was going to be most likely the hub city of choice. Now, the CFL hasn't denied this, but they have made it a little bit more complex, throwing other ideas out there. And now the sort of rumors are that, yes, Winnipeg is certainly in the mix, but that it may be a two hub city model that they're going to be following. But either way, it looks like the hub city thing is the direction that the league is looking to take. So what is this going to look like for the Toronto Argonauts?
It'll be interesting to see if any of the cities do agree to it. I know that there is a lot of excitement because I think potentially there might be some money to be made from having those teams there, but it'll be interesting to see what the decision is in terms of health, because there will definitely be a lot of pushback in these cities, especially cities that have things under control right now. There's going to be a lot of pushback on bringing in teams into that environment. So I'm interested to see if what materializes for an actual hub.
There have been mayors and premiers that have expressed interest in this idea, but you're right. Like once we decide on a place, and now suddenly the people in that community start talking and say, well, hey, we really don't have any COVID-19 cases here. Are we really in favor of bringing in hundreds of people, many of whom are coming from south of the border, where there are serious problems? Is that cool? But let's bypass that for now. I realize that's a huge hurdle, but let's just say in a dream scenario, there is a host city or two. They want to do it. Everything's set up. What do you think that's going to look like for a team? Like, are they traveling there and staying there? This is the bubble idea that once you go to, let's say, Winnipeg, you don't leave Winnipeg until the season's over? Yeah,
I think so. I think it's sort of be a combination of what the NHL and the NBA are doing. I think it's possible it can work where the Argos would travel to Winnipeg, and essentially they would just have to take over a floor of a hotel, and that's where they would live for the season. And in essence, that I think, what I had thought for a while is that I think practice is going to be out. I think that everything will be online except for games.
But why don't you? So I don't understand why practice has to be out. Like if you're quarantined anyway, so if you're living on the floor of a hotel and that's your place, and you're assuming everyone has been tested before gaining admittance into this bubble, this whatever facility we're talking about, how does having any kind of practice increase risk of transmission if you're making sure everyone's clean to start?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be able to accomplish in terms of the bubble. Are they going to be able to restrict people to the hotel? Are they going to test people every day? When they go to practice? I think the idea behind practice is that if you are in close contact with each other, that is a potentially risky situation. And so if you're going to risk things, you're willing to risk it for a game once a week, but not every practice.
Well, I'm assuming before any game, everyone would be tested. So
right. So, I mean, I guess, are they going to test before every practice? I mean, maybe.
I guess it depends how far we've come by then. Like, is there a system through which you can test and get immediate responses, and we have enough available kits where you can run a test before every practice, where it only takes 5 minutes to say, yeah, everyone's good. But then the question would be, let's suppose not everyone's good. Like, let's say we've got a practice where we're testing prior to a practice and one of our linebackers tests positive for COVID. Now what happens?
Right. I think that's the idea. I think that basically what they're, I mean, my take was, and then the NFL players seem to agree with it, is they should do everything in their power to eliminate times that the team is together in one spot. And so in essence, you can't get rid of it at the game, but you can get rid of it everywhere else.
But why can't you get rid of it at the game? If everyone is being tested prior to the game, doesn't that get rid of it?
Well, you can't. They wouldn't be tested per se, right? I mean, you would take their temperature.
But I think you need to actually have a test. Like, I don't think the temperature thing is good enough.
Well, they can't. I mean, I don't think there's any medical. Like, I don't think that a test, an immediate test like that, is something that they can guarantee.
And so you've got the Argos staying in their hotel room all week. They're basically having a few hours of meetings every day, basically doing virtual practice and install. Presumably there'll be some fitness time in there. You can't just be sitting like a potato all week and then play a football game.
Right, exactly. I don't know how they do that. I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to restrict them to the hotel.
No, well, they would go crazy. You can't just you can't keep people in prison like that.
No, but, so I mean, they are with the NBA.
Well, they're trying to. We'll see.
Right. I mean, we'll see. Right. I don't know. I mean, it really depends. I think it's going to require, it probably will require players to make a decision. In essence, here's what we can offer as a potential way to have a season. Yes, it's highly restrictive. Are you willing to do this for 3 months?
And I think this is going to have to, like, I know the difficulty behind this, but I think it has to be an actual test before the game. I don't think it can just be temperatures. Because if you don't do tests of everyone coming into that stadium that day and there is a case, then the league's done. That's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they can do, I don't think they can do same day tests. I don't think they have that time yet.
Which makes me think that there are going to be issues. Like, I think I just can't see this working until you have the capacity for same day tests.
Maybe people are free to do what they want and you test on Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday is lockdown.
Okay, I like that. So that's an idea. So
maybe, Thursday is test day, and then that's it. Once you get tested, you can't leave the hotel.
Right. Okay. That's an interesting idea. So Argos are in the hotel. They're staying there all week. They're doing 2 or 3 hours of virtual meetings and virtual practices. They're doing actual, individual fitness training and lifting and so on, which you could schedule. It would be difficult, but you can schedule that. You can figure that out.
They've opened the gym. the Argos gym. I think that is possible.
And so then what you need to, and so let's say, every game is, let's say the games are played throughout the day on Saturday or Sunday, I guess. Then, yeah, once Thursday comes, everyone's tested. And now you have to stay within your actual bubble. So from test onwards, you're in the actual bubble. Although, yeah, but you don't even you can't even associate with anybody after you've been tested until you know the results.
No, that's what I mean. That's where it would have to be basically you're tested Thursday and then you're locked down. I mean, I agree. It is highly restrictive and Obviously there are lessons to be learned from the Bundesliga and the Premiership, who seem to have had a successful restart to their seasons.
Yeah, it's gone very well, actually.
Those are sports that don't have tons of close contact. But I haven't seen anybody do an analysis. I assume one is coming of why the Bundesliga and the Premiership so far have been successful. So I would be curious to read what their protocols are, because clearly that seems to be something that works.
Have you seen some of these helmet redesigns and like masks incorporated into helmets? Do you think there's any chance something like that ends up happening?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's very difficult to tell, depending on what the breathing is like.
Yeah.
And how much it restricts the breathing. I think the reality is that the multi-billion-dollar monster of the NFL has not figured anything out. And so it's not surprising that the CFL has not either.
And they've got a more difficult scenario because the U.S. is in a much worse state right now than Canada is.
Yeah, and they have way too many teams. The beauty of the CFL is, there's only 9 teams. So, you can play in one hub city. I think people understand that there is, that everybody's standing on quicksand, but that doesn't mean you can't make plans. It doesn't mean you can't say, as of what we know right now, here is our plan. I think what's really frustrating to players is there seems to be this absolute fear of doing anything. And I don't know why. I don't know what their angle is. I don't know if they're angling for government money, or what the legal ramifications for not announcing a season. There must be a reason why these owners and the commissioner are dragging their feet. And I don't know what that is, but I would bet you that it is financially motivated.
The last thing I want to talk about today before we get to our interview with Natey Adjei is the Edmonton football team, who have said outright this past week that they've already looked into changing their name. They're not going to change it. And this comes in the wake of Washington looking at changing their name and all the pressure that is put on them. A lot of pressure was reapplied to Edmonton. And yeah, they're basically saying, no, we've had this conversation. It's not happening. You wrote an article on xsandargos.com back in December about this, and it seems even more relevant now. You got to be disappointed with that decision, like everyone else is.
Yeah. It's not disappointed in the sense that I was not surprised that Edmonton did not change, as they really haven't shown any understanding of the concerns. They hauled out that survey. It's the same thing Washington has done, saying we've asked the Native community and they say we're not sure, and then they don't really talk about who they asked or what the numbers were. It seems like a very flimsy argument where, clearly, like, with my article where, the National Inuit Association has officially said they would like the name changed. To me, that should be the end of the debate.
Absolutely. The fact that they said after their survey, they said it was inconclusive. Some wanted it changed, some didn't. To me, that's enough. If some want it changed, if people are offended by it, like, I don't think it's too much to ask that professional sports organizations not be named after racial slurs.
Right. The reality is with Eskimo, it is not as, from everything I've read, certainly, as egregious as some, but it clearly is offensive. It clearly is an English name assigned to Native Canadians. And, we're just past that. My suggestion in the article, and continues to be, the Edmonton Military Regiment, the Eddies, is right there. You simply name your team the Edmonton Eddies. It celebrates the military heritage of Edmonton. You don't have to change anything. You keep the double E. It seems to me to be such an easy change, and I just don't understand how they're standing behind inconclusive survey of some random people. I mean, I saw when they released that the first time, like, who did they talk to? Like, what? There didn't seem to be any, it seemed to be all very kind of casual, and it clearly had a predetermined purpose. They weren't curious. Oh, I wonder. Like, they were looking for people to say, I don't care. And then they were going to use that. Well, I asked this native guy and he said he doesn't care. So what's the problem, right? I mean, that's such a childish, immature attitude around a sports franchise. You're supposed to be bigger than that. I think it's, I think the league should step in. I think the league should step in and say, this needs to be changed. I think TSN should step in, I mean, I think that there is a place for somebody to say, look, this has to change. We can't continue with this, and, change it.
I'm sure this won't be the last time that we talk about this. I'm sure it will come up again at some point. But for now, let's leave it at that. And let's get to the interview with Natey Adjei. I'm joined now by Toronto Argonauts receiver and the host of the All Ball podcast, Natey Adjei. Thanks for coming on to talk some football with me today.
Oh, anytime, man. Anytime we can talk football, I'm all for it.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey. I remember watching you play at St. Joe's, but I have some even more clear memories of you on a stacked Mississauga Warriors team with Jameek Murray and Jamari Bennett, all those guys. Tell us about, getting into football and what your journey was like.
Yeah, so pretty much getting into football, how I first started playing football is one of my best friends, Chris Rossetti, who's with the Miami Dolphins. Now, his dad was a football coach, and he had three other brothers who played football. And I was always going over to their house, and then they would go to football, and I'd be left to do nothing. So I'm like, let me try to play football too so I can spend some more time with my friends. Then I asked my parents. At first, they say no because football's too dangerous. And then I got to write them a series of letters explaining to them that, hey, I've been playing soccer. I'm fast. It's not dangerous if they can't catch you. And telling them I'm going to be playing receiver. Receiver is not a dangerous position because all I do is run and catch. And, the likelihood of someone hitting me is lower. The people that are going to be hitting me are going to be the same size. I remember vividly writing this letter and telling them all the reasons why I should play football. And now looking back, I should have listened to them and played basketball or baseball or something. But nevertheless, I stuck to football, and started playing with them with the Cougars of the OMFL. Then went up and played high school at St. Joe's, like you said, and played. We didn't have a great team, so I was playing quarterback a little bit of the time. But then once we did have a quarterback, played receiver, but our teams were not powerhouses by any stretch of the imaginations. But where I really made improvements and had the most fun was with Mississauga Warriors, like you said, with Jameek, Chris, Jamari, Jordan Wilson-Ross, Ray Hartman, Blair Smith. All these guys, a bunch of guys ended up having CFL careers. Even Brent Urban, who's in the NFL now. So it was a stacked team. Lots of memories, lots of fun. Shea Pierre too, who was doing fantastic stuff with his training business. But we had a lot of fun. The best memories I have from that was practice and the kind of competition that we had, because you had high level players playing on that team, and we were going undefeated almost every year. We won 2 championships, but the most fun, the most competition we had is going against each other in practice. And I think that's when a lot of us grew. I know for me, it was when I grew as a player, because I knew each practice I had to bring it, because I didn't want to get embarrassed. And you have that pride and that mindset of you want to do well and you don't want to get embarrassed. You have to bring it. So that's when I had my most growth. And then after that, obviously I went to junior college at City College San Francisco, 2 years there, then got an opportunity to go to University of Buffalo. Didn't have the best career there. At junior college, I had a pretty productive career, but I got the opportunity to go to Buffalo, and first year, learning the ropes kind of thing, and playing special teams. But the second year, where you become a starter, and that's when you think you're gonna bust out. At second game of the year, I ended up breaking my ankle, and that was it for my college career at the D1 level. So that was kind of rough for me to go through that process, because you're thinking, D1, you want to put on, you want to give guys from back home an example of like how to do things and how to reach for your goals. And I felt like I let a lot of people down, but fortunately enough, my story didn't end there. Get drafted by the Argos, and play 2 years there, and go to Edmonton for 4, and now back with Argos. So that's long story short. That's my kind of journey.
I forgot about some of those names that you brought up. I don't know what it is about Peel region that produces so many talented football players. Like I've been lucky enough, in coaching at Lorne Park to coach guys like Brent Urban and Jack Cassar, but every week you got to go up against someone like yourself or Brendan Bridge or Bresk or Nakas, Josh Stanford, Robbie Smith. Yeah. You mentioned Ray Hartman, Essa Rabure, Blair Smith, Devin Bailey, Shaq Johnson, Kalanji. Jerome Messam, that wasn't cool.
Messam was before us. Yeah,
that was a weekly nightmare. That was my first year of coaching. That was not a fun.
Messam back then, he wasn't like what we saw, later in CFL career. He was like lean, mean, and like running machine. Like when I first saw him play, I was terrified because I was seeing him running over dudes that were like half his size, and I'm like, this guy's the best player I've ever seen in my life. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we lost him in the final, and he just single-handedly put on a clinic. And there's nothing we can do. We had guys in position. They didn't throw. I don't think they threw a single pass that game. And it was just there was nothing you could do. He was just such a machine, and so it didn't surprise me at all the success he had at the next level. But I don't know what it is about Peel Region where you got so many talented football players, and now a bunch of Argos.
Yeah, yes, man. That's been the dream. Honestly, since I've been a kid and, watching the Argos and, just talking over my trainer, Jesse Corona, who actually trains like 4 or 5 of the Argos right now. But, we've always been talking about like, why aren't the Argos targeting the local players? There's so many of us. Like, why don't, at first our dream was, okay, why doesn't one college, have all of these guys in the Peel come there and kind of be a farm system for Peel region football? And then we're like, okay, why doesn't the Argos do it? Because I feel like they were struggling with attendance at the time, and I was like, if they did that, I feel like each player would bring 4 or 5 more people than the average player at least, and that would kind of help, especially if the players are up to par. That would kind of help attendance a little bit. And then having local guys, if they become stars, that would be, I think that would be the game breaker. So, I'm so happy, Pinball, listened to my thoughts. No, you didn't. But no, he had the same thought process, him and John Murphy. And, it's kind of coming together, and it's so exciting. It's a shame that, kind of COVID has, put a damper on that. And, it's likely that our fans won't get to see, all the local boys in action. But this is actually, it's been a dream, to have all these guys. Even Dejan, man. Dejan grew up, down the street from me, and, I have a long relationship with him. So getting to play with him is going to be phenomenal too. I can't wait. But that's all the local players. That's the formula I thought, the Argos should do. You see with Montreal, them having all their local guys there. SAS, not as much because there's not a lot more, like as many guys are coming up. But I remember when Chris Getzlaff was there, and he's from there, and he's a star receiver. He is probably the most popular player there. You go there, there's still number 89 Getzlaff jerseys, right? So I was like thinking, man, if Toronto, we could, do something similar to that, it could be, could end up being phenomenal. But I'm glad we're on that train now. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, we get on the field and we get, get an opportunity to show the fans that, you kind of need to have.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think like you look at the national players on the Argos, almost all of them are from, Southern Ontario. There's a bunch of Toronto guys and then a ton of Mississauga and Brampton, including a bunch of draft picks from this year too. So yeah, hopefully if everyone can kind of rally their communities a little bit, no reason why these seats can't get filled once they're allowed to be. So
exactly. And if you look at it, like me, Juwan, and Dejan, literally from Mississauga, but like even closely, like we were like a 10-kilometer radius from each other. Like, you know, I'm in the middle. Dejan's 5 minutes one way, and Juwan's 5 minutes the other way. And to think potentially have all three of us, you know, on the field at the same time, I've never heard of that in professional sports. Like 3 guys, literally from the same city, same position. You know what I mean? And on the field at the same time, like, we all played D1. Could you even think about like the possibilities? Like if they market it, like, you know what I mean? Like it's amazing to me that, you know, it's all come together like that. But
yeah, they're gonna have to put some signs up, you know, around around the neighborhood you grew up in. Just know, a big billboard. You're entering the community of
the Mississauga Air Force.
That's right,
or something.
Something like that. So you're coming off an outstanding season in Edmonton. Now, I'm still not 100% you were being used the right way, but at least you were being used well. Yes. So why did it take 6 years to figure out what you could do for CFL teams?
And I agree with you 100%. I didn't think I was being used fully to my potential, but I wasn't going to complain because I was finally being used. So I'm like, okay, man, this is better than nothing. I'll take this because I was so used to, you know, just playing special teams and not getting any love. So I'm like, I'll take this if this is all I'm going to get. But honestly, I love Coach Moss, and that's my guy. I was always in, you know, we talk a lot off the field too, and I was always in his ear, like, yo, Coach Moss, man, let me run this route. Or even like, you know, in practice, you know,
coaches love that.
You know, I did it like in a good way where it was like, Coach, man, like, let me show you in practice what I could do. And then, you know, you want to put that in the game plan? And he'd be like, oh, we'll see. So, but Trevor was really my biggest advocate. And that's probably the biggest reason I had a bigger year, because he was always like, he saw what I could do. And for some reason, like, we always connected, even when he was in Toronto and then going to Edmonton, we always connected, and we always have our field connection, which is important for quarterback, receiver. But he's always in practice. We'd have a period where he'd call the plays, and, you know, he could tell guys to do whatever routes, and he'd always give me like the money routes, like, you know what I mean? And I'd run and get open win. He'd throw me, and we'd be laughing, you know, bombs over Baghdad in practice. And he'd be like, hey, man, I'm doing this to show Coach Moss that you can do it, and so you can put in the game plan. So that was my biggest advocate. I won't say that Coach Moss was like against me or anything. He honestly, like, one of my favorite coaches. But he has, obviously, as a head coach, he has a lot going on, and he's not obviously just worried about my personal interests. But, you know, like you said, I had a bigger year, but honestly, I felt it could have been bigger. And the goal this year, if I was back in Edmonton, I know me and Trevor had talked about it, was to become, you know, take that next step and to become a 1,000-yard receiver. And it's a shame that's over, but we'll see what I can do with Matt. But that's something that, you know, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. Is like, I was being used, but not fully. So we'll see what I can do this year.
Well, I think, you know, Coach had his system, and, you know, he had to fit everyone into it. So it is tough. But yeah, I was like, you know, if I saw you run one more, you know, one-step slant or speed out, or you know,
down.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of those. But you did such a good job of finding space. I think one of my favorite things about your game when I watch your film, you know, you're great at finding space and, you know, sitting in open windows, but it's after the catch. You never try to do more than what's there. So if 25 yards are possible, you'll get the 25. Whereas you see a lot of guys, they don't want to give up on, you know, trying to make a big play out of everything, and they often won't maximize their yardage. You know what space is there, and you take every yard of it. And I think that's a huge asset for a receiver.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's just, you know, for me, like, you know, you don't get a lot of touches. So I'm thinking like, okay, I have to maximize, you know, the yardage I can get, because I don't know if I'm going to touch the ball again. But, you know, like other guys, they might, like, I don't know, Speedy Banks, for example. He knows he's going to get like at least 10 targets a game. So he can play around and, you know, have fun with it and do whatever he needs to do. But for me, I got to maximize it and then continue to show, you know, have coaches trust that, and I'm going to do the right thing each time. So I'm always trying to play sound football and get what I can to continue to get opportunities, you know.
Do you have a favorite concept, like a favorite passing concept where when it's called, you always know you're going to be open?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like for me, I've always liked the concept where, there's three guys to the field. I'm number three inside, and the number three guy has a diagonal. The number two guy has a seam, and the number one guy, they do a couple of different things. He might have a dig. He might have a little like a mini out, but just he's kind of occupying space just to get the corner out of there. But I really like that concept and then there's times where they'll have that number one guy, take a deep shot and because the corner will fall asleep. So the concept is they call it so many different things, but number three, the closest guy to the quarterback is running a diagonal where he's running like a 45-degree angle across the field. The number two guy is running a seam, and he has the opportunity to take the middle of the field if it's open. But if it's closed, he'll stay on the seam. So for me, I like that because the defense can't ever be right. Unless they get pressure, it puts so much stress on them. You got a guy running diagonally, like whether you're a man or you're in zone concept, there's answers everywhere. So that would kind of be my favorite concept.
That's one of my favorites too, and I've got that in my offense, a version of that. I've got a running back leaking out to that trip side as well, just to try and pin that flats defender. And the difference there, I guess, is in my diagonal, like he's trying to cut under the free, kind of create a bit of a high-low on that free safety with the 2 and 3. But the key on that is the 2 and the 3 both have an inside release no matter where the next defender is. They got to go inside of him, but then the number 2's got to get back on his stem. Yes. And that creates some problems when they're in, especially against cover 3. It's a really nice, nice concept. There's
so many holes in cover 3. But I like what you did there with the running back occupying the flat, because when he goes out there, it gives the quarterback a nice, not pre-snap read, but read of whether it's man or zone, and it makes his read a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, if you see the backer tearing out there, then you know what you got for sure. And there's so many great options you can run with the 1. Where if he sees the number 2 defender bail, then he runs a dig. Or if the number 2 defender sits, then he can sit on the sideline. So I love that concept.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know, I'm getting excited now. It's thinking football. So if you're Coach Dinwiddie or Coach Jackson, which receiver spots do you have in mind for like yourself, Juwan, Dejan? Like where would you put? I'll limit it to the 3 of you guys because it's the guys you know best.
I know DeVaris
maybe
too.
We'll put DeVaris in there. Yeah, put DeVaris in there too. So where do you put you guys?
So first thing I would do is all of us are extremely multiple receivers. Like we're not like pigeonholed into one spot. So I would be really excited to process them because I know we can move guys around, have guys do different things, and do it well. DeVaris, I would have him under boundary because he's been like one of the best boundary receivers in the CFL. He's got that standing start, and he can run pretty much any route in the book. So I'd have him at the X spot to begin with. But obviously, like I said, like I would have guys move around a lot. I seen DeVaris firsthand in Edmonton, like win a lot of routes when he had a waggle. I would have him there. Juwan, I would have him doing, and I kind of know what we're doing with him, so I don't want to say I'm kind of going against that, but I would have him playing that Y spot where the number 2 to the field where he was in Calgary. I feel like it's so much open space, and you've seen the kind of success he's had. He can run pretty much any route, and even when he's covered, he's 6'5", and he can go up and get the ball on anyone. Great route runner, great in space, great in finding holes. I think he would fit in well. But like I said, Juwan is a guy like you can line up anywhere and kind of be able to do his thing. He'll be able to block, the ends. He'll be able to, get back and protect. Dejan, that's a great one too. I spent a lot of time working with Dejan, talking to him. He'd send me film each week, and when he was in college, and I could see him like very quick in short spaces. He to me, in the CFL, he might be a Z, but I could see him also having a lot of success as the short side receiver. But they don't play a lot of Canadians there. Things might change since we have so many Canadian receivers. I can see him just like DeVaris, he early in his career before Dejan really gets going. If DeVaris is down or something, you can have Dejan step in there, and I think he would do a phenomenal job just because, he's used to being in the boundary in the States. Everything's the boundary pretty much, X or Z. And he's used to working tight space. He's great at running slant routes. He's great at running fades. He's great at tracking the ball in the air. I think that would be a great spot for him. But like I said, guy you can put anywhere, and I think he'll have success as long as he knows what he's doing and he's able to play fast. And that's the big thing for rookies, obviously. Just adjusting to the game and play clock and just better athletes, of course. And myself, I don't know where I'd put me. For me personally, I like playing that number 3 spot with Edmonton, just being able to do a lot of things, a lot of working against Sam linebackers, having to protect and sometimes block the ends, run screens, just so many things you can do. Run diagonals. I love run diagonals. Just a lot of things I would. But I played Z in the past too. And I wouldn't be opposed to playing that either, because I know we move around a lot. But for me personally, I like playing inside just because you can do so much and there's so much more available. It's a lot more fun than just running out to the field and running. You have so many routes you can run out there. So for me, I like being able to do a lot of things. So that's probably where I put a lot of those guys in. And if you want other guys, I think I can give you a scouting but I don't know. I'm not the coach, so.
I know. That's always the disclaimer, right? You got to say, what where your position is. But the coach ultimately has to make the call. But it's still fun to kind of play it out, and I think everyone does. Right. Plays it out on paper and kind of comes up with their own depth chart. But yeah, I like you on the inside a lot. I think you run well in traffic. You're solid, so you're not intimidated by the size of linebackers. Right. You can outbench and outsquat pretty much all of them anyway. Yeah. So having you on the inside, I think is a good thing. I don't want to see you coming out of the backfield like we saw earlier in your career. Yes. I hated those little leak outs. Those checkdowns for you. I just felt it was a waste of the stuff that you could do.
I agree, man. I wish you were my coach. No, seriously. I wish you, because I don't want to run. I want to run down the field, man, and I want to catch passes down the field and get yak. But every receiver does. But like I said, everybody has to play a role, and if you're given that role, my thing is whatever role you're given, because obviously coaches have to make decisions. Whatever role you're given, just being a superstar in that role, and that's something that I've always tried to do. Whether it was special teams or receiver, if that's my role, if you guys say it's my role, I don't have to be happy with it. I don't have to love it, but I am going to be a superstar in that role. So that's kind of how I've always been brought up, and that's kind of my mindset.
So you and I both find trash talking very entertaining. I never talked as a player, and I certainly don't talk as a coach. How much talking do you do on the field?
Oh, dude, so we do find it entertaining, and I'm more the guy that loves to come in when other people are talking trash, because I find it so hilarious, because it means absolutely nothing. It doesn't determine what's going to happen from each play to another, especially in football. Offensively, I've never really talked trash because I've always been a receiver, and I'm not trying to get people mad at me to the point where they want to hit me any harder than they will. So I'm more talking to guys, trying to butter them up. They're like, man, I was watching film, man. You got it, man. You've been balling lately, just to get him a little happy, get him a little softer, where he doesn't want to hit me as hard as he really wants to. So that's something that that's my plan. But if someone does try to bring it to me, I have to give it back, because there's no back down in football. But for the most part, I'm quiet, trying to observe, butter guys up, and conserve my energy, because in the CFL the play clocks are short, so you want to be full go when the next opportunity comes. But I love hearing other people, and on my show, I like hearing talking to guys and asking them what kind of trash talk they were exposed to. And Trevor was probably one of the funniest, man, and he got it from even his coach. So
yeah, that's probably my favorite episode of the All Ball podcast, the Trevor Harris episode. They're all good. I liked when you had the Brissett brothers on there as well, and they talked a little the history of trash talk, went on there too. So, those are my favorite episodes, but I think it's cool when you have, members of the media on there as well. Yeah. It's kind of reversed, right? You're the one interviewing them. So that's kind of a fresh take on it. But yeah, it's a great podcast. If anyone listening to this show doesn't already listen to All Ball, and I'm sure they do, you got to pick it up. So it's
I appreciate
something that no, seriously, it's something I look forward to every week. And awesome. You now you've gone up against Tommy Campbell, Shaq Richardson, Alden Darby, all these new Argo teammates you've got. Who talks the most in the Argo secondary?
Tommy is really quiet. But if you kind of, he's kind of quiet to a point where you don't know what he's going to do next. And that's kind of a little bit more intimidating because, I've seen guys try to rile. Like I remember in Edmonton, Duke was trying to rile him up, saying all kinds of off the wall stuff to him. And he didn't say nothing. I was like, whoa, is this guy hearing this and just choosing not to say anything? Or is he about to kill us? So that was it was more intimidating for him to do that. And then Darby, I knew Darby's before because he lives in Toronto and we trained together. So he wasn't talking trash. He talks a lot to his teammates, like communicating, getting guys in the right headspace, getting guys, just motivated. He's more of a talker in general. Like he's just always talking, saying something, and it's not negative. He's just trying to, get his troops rallied up because I think he's playing safety. So there was a lot of communicating he's doing. Shaq, I never played against Shaq. I think he was in Calgary, but I wasn't playing receiver. But he is like a hell of a player, man. Like I just remember the kind of acceleration and speed and play his ability to read plays was just high level. And I know he got a chance to go to the Raiders after he was in Calgary. There's a reason why. So I never really heard him, but I know like the most chatty guy is definitely Darby, and it's not bad at all. It's all good, and it's all fun.
That's a good diplomatic answer, I think. You covered that well.
I'm sure. Actually, Shaq definitely, because I've seen a clip of Shaq and him and number 80 on Hamilton. His name is
Ackland.
Jalen Ackland.
Yeah,
and he hit Ackland so hard, jacked him up. Ackland was, I don't know if it's a good clip for Ackland, but he was kind of, I don't know, he's trying to talk trash, and he was, and Shaq just gave it to him, like, even after the fact, and it was bad. I can't even say half the stuff he was saying. You got to look the clip up because he was mic'd up. That's why I heard it. And you got to look up that exchange and you'll know what I'm talking about. It was bad. So I was like, Shaq, you are a bad man.
Yeah, no, Shaq is a guy that nobody wants to play against, which is awesome. That's the perfect guy to have on your team. I love having a corner like that.
Exactly.
So no, the Argos defense, I think, looks sick this year. So I'm just hoping.
The whole roster looks sick, man.
I know.
You're going up and down the roster, and you're thinking like, damn, our DBs are way better. The D line is much improved. Receivers, I have to say, is like the best they probably had in a while, especially Canadian content wise. Quarterback, amazing. Like no knock against anyone that was there before, but every position is almost an upgrade. For the better, so it's exciting for sure.
The only question mark I have at all is at running back, but you've got a bunch of guys that could be amazing. That's the thing. You've got four guys.
Carlos Williams, right?
Yeah, Sankey as well. Like, and he looks good. He looks in good shape, and his feet are so quick. Right. So I'm really not worried about any position on the field. What I'm worried about is let's get on the field.
Let's play. Yeah, no, you're right, man. Let's play. That's what I'm worried about. And obviously, I had Justin on the show this past week, and he was talking about there's optimism because both sides are motivated to get a deal done. There's obviously things that need to be worked out because like they want a new CBA. Before we can play 2020. And it's like, there's not enough time to do all that. CBA negotiations take a long time. So it's like, you want to do that by the 23rd? You guys are going to be working 24 hours a day to do that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that was nice to have him breaking down some of those elements. I love how you go to Justin Dunk for your info.
You know what I mean?
He has it before anyone else does.
It's been like that the whole time, which is like hilarious because like I tweeted the other day, it's like it's sad that I got to go Twitter to find out whether I'm going to play football this year, but that's just how it has been. And so I had to go to Justin Dunk because I was going to have him on anyway, but right before I had him on, that memo came out. So it was like perfect timing. And he was able to break that down for us. And he has all the info. Like I said it on the show, I'm like, Justin, like if you know Justin Dunk, if you're a CFL player, he probably knows more about you than you know about yourself. So he was like the perfect dude to have on to, kind of give us the ins and outs and why we weren't getting any communication and, kind of figure out what was going on there. But it's like you said, it's crazy that I'm going to Justin Dunk to get my information about my league that I'm playing in.
I know, and but he does a good job of explaining both sides of it too, right? Like he kind of explains some things that you get angry at as a fan or as a player, and you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. But he is pretty good at explaining, well, this is what the league is probably thinking. And
that's what I needed, because you're only hearing the player side as a player, right? I'm like, why from a owners or, front office side why is this happening the way it's happening? And, he did a fantastic job, like you said.
All right, I got to finish with a basketball question. I've got this thing that's been going on for a while now. I've been putting together a hypothetical Argos basketball team based on player suggestions.
Let's go.
So at the moment, this is what we've got based on the interviews I've done over the last 6 or 7 weeks. So I've got Dejan playing the 1. You're at the 2 right now.
That is a perfect spot because that's where I played in high school. That's amazing.
Perfect. All right, we got Tavares at 3.
Oh, nice.
Jawan's at 4, and we got Philip Blake at 5. We're a little small.
Oh my God, no, man, we got heart. Like, I think everyone could chip it on the boards to make up for the lack. We'd be like the Rockets, where PJ Tucker's playing the 5, but they're not getting out rebounded.
Yeah, and I still have PJ Tucker's an animal, so that it doesn't really matter how tall he is. But anyone you want to replace on there, bring someone else in.
No, man,
you have a 6-man
solid. Jamal Campbell, I talked to him. He's an underrated basketball player, and I was I have some charity basketball games, and I was talking to him a little bit, and he's like, man, you're not gonna not want to have me on this squad, and that was enough, enough I need to hear. Like, so I was like, this guy can ball, obviously, and it doesn't hurt that he's like 6'7". So I think we got to add Jamal Campbell if we're scared about rebounding. Add Jamal Campbell for getting our rebounder, bring him in the game, clean those issues up. So you have a phenomenal squad. This squad will probably do numbers, and we might get to see the squad in action because once COVID is over and everything, like I said, I do charity basketball games at schools, and Juwan has played, Dejan has come out, Tavares hasn't been in town, but he'll be in town now, so I'm sure all those guys will play, and you can see us whoop on some 17, 18-year-olds.
That'd be pretty amazing. Okay, well, if that
happens,
we'll definitely promote that, and I got to come out and watch that, see how that goes.
Awesome. Yes.
Well, I want to thank you so much for giving me your time today. It's been awesome, and let's hope we've got some real football to talk about soon.
Absolutely, and no problem. Anytime you want to have me on, man, I'm available. Love talking to guys. You do a great job, man, and I know you love the game a lot, and we need more guys like you. So thank you for all you do as well, and thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. All the best. You take care.
Right. Take care.
That was Natey Adjei, receiver for the Toronto Argonauts. Awesome to have him on the show. Just another one and a line of terrific guests that we've had over the last few weeks. And like I said before, if you haven't had a chance to listen to the All Ball podcast, you've got to listen to it. There are some amazing moments. Like JB, I think the one of the more entertaining parts of our podcast is when we have interviews, when we get to talk to actual players. And I think one of the cool things about All Ball is that's the whole podcast is a player talking to other players or a player talking to people in the media and so forth. And so it's all getting to see some of that behind the scenes stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the feedback we've gotten is that people really enjoy when we're not talking.
Yes, it's true. Those are among the highlights of every episode. And so yeah, with All Ball, the whole podcast is us not talking.
Exactly. We'll do what we can to keep everyone happy.
Well, that'll just about do it for us today. Thanks again to Natey Adjei for giving us his time. On behalf of JB, this is Ben Grant saying so long, and may all your pre-snap reads be good ones. I'll see ya.